Hi YouTube fam, today I am gonna share 4 stories to give you really cold chills. So buckle up and like the video if you really like the content. The farm. For context, I live with my parents and little brother on a farm in the countryside of Tasmania, just outside of a town that's a bit too far to walk but a short drive away. There are around 7 or 8 houses on the 2-kilometer gravel road where I live, so neighbors are sparse but not too far. Our gravel driveway is probably 60 to 100 meters long. At the bottom, where it connects to the main road, there's a small, 10-ish SQ meter shed on the right and a larger, 60-ish SQ meter shed on the left. Both sheds and the road docks connected to the left and right of the driveway are owned by a man from the mainland, so he's never here. So, it was probably last year, I can't really remember. Dad and I, 17 or 18 at the time, were heading home at night and had just pulled onto the bottom of our driveway when Dad thought he saw movement in the little shed, which is always locked and isn't used for anything. He stopped the Uda and went to check it out. He tested the door, but it wouldn't open, so he flashed his phone torch through the little window to the left. He could only see to the left of the window, not the right. Dad came back to the Uda and asked if I saw anything, but I wasn't paying attention and said no. He told me he thought he saw a head move out of the way when the lights of his Uda shined on the shed. We moved past this and assumed it was nothing. Fast forward either a few days or a couple of weeks later. It was late at night and I was up watching YouTube as usual. I heard what sounded like walking on the gravel outside my bedroom. I live in a shed. My bedroom is at the front and connected to the front driveway. There's a picnic table out front of my room and the barbecue is there too. I thought nothing of it because 1, there are a million wallabies on our property and I hear them jumping around all the time, plus we have cats that are free to come and go as they please, and there are possums too. 2, I wasn't going to let my anxiety keep me up too late, again. I decided it was probably just an awkward animal and went back to YouTube. The sound stopped. Whatever. The sound happened again. I stopped and listened. It stopped. Whatever. Again, a 3rd time. It was then that I realized there have never been any animals that walk with that pattern, so I started getting a little anxious. I turned off my iPad and listened, my senses heightened. It was human footsteps, I knew. I was familiar. The footsteps were lingering around outside my bedroom, and what makes it worse is that my room has a glass door that leads outside, and I sleep with my curtains open, right where I could hear the footsteps. I was freaking out because who the hell was it? I got out of bed and looked outside because the footsteps ventured onto the grass bank to the right of my room, so they wouldn't see me if I looked outside. I could see the figure of a man in a hoodie and went right back to bed. I'm so glad my mom is a light sleeper and wakes at the quietest of noises, as she must have alerted Dad, go into the front door and aggressively asked who it was. The man was looking for one of my older brothers, I think. He kept mumbling my brother's name, and that's all I could make out. Dad told him to F off, and he bolted down the road. My 2 older brothers don't live with us. They're delinquents, and this is their legal address, FFS. It must have been the man from the shed because Dad looked in there again the following day, and it looked like someone was squatting in there. Sorry for the long story. I know it's not that crazy of a story. But when you're a teen who gets night anxiety, it's pretty freaky. Footsteps in the night, a terrifying experience on the farm. Before I start, I just want to say these are personal experiences, and none of this is made up. The reason I'm making this post is that I don't really have anyone to talk to about this, so I just want your thoughts. There are too many things that have happened to note them all in this post, so I'll just go over some that stand out to me. When I was around 5 years old, I had this dream where I could see myself sleeping, and I was floating above my body. I then floated over to my parents' room and saw them fast asleep. After that, I don't remember anything. However, apparently, at that exact moment, my mom was having a similar dream where she saw me being pulled out of the front door by some kind of shadow figure. Immediately, at that same time, my mom heard a scream in real life and went out to see what was going on. She saw the front door wide open and me looking like I was going back to sleep. I've chalked it up to astral projection or something, but really, I don't know what that was. There have been a whole slew of other things that have happened that I won't get into right now, but what's been happening recently is really the main reason for this post. I keep hearing weird tapping and creaking noises in certain spots in my room at the weirdest moments. Not sure how to explain it, but other people who have heard it in my room admit the sound is weird, but try to rationalize it as the house settling. Also, it's worth noting this is not the same house I was in as in that last story. Another thing that happened somewhat recently is I was playing chess with my dad and had the pieces I had taken on the side of the table. Once the match was over, we went to put the pieces away and realized one was missing. We both didn't drop anything or hide it. We literally searched the entire living room top to bottom and never found the piece. One other thing that happened in the same house was when we were all in the living room playing a game or something. We suddenly heard something break in the kitchen. We went to check, and a bowl that was already on the counter had broken literally in half, just sitting there. No one else was in the kitchen, and it didn't even shatter into a bunch of pieces. There's definitely more I can share, but I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on this. Chuck E. Cheese horror, the day the animatronic turned deadly. When I was younger, I always heard those stories about Chuck E. Cheese, about animatronics taking kids. I never believed them, but that all changed. It was my friend Mike's birthday. He was turning 6 or 7, and I was around 7 or 8. My name is Zoe, and I'm a girl, just saying that because my profile might be confusing. Anyway, back to the story. This was a long time ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. After this, I never went to Chuck E. Cheese again. My mom yelled, "Come on, time to go." I was at the door before she could put her shoes on and grab the keys. When we arrived, I was so happy to see Mike. He wasn't like other boys who picked on girls. He was nice. I saw him and ran to the ball pit, waving him over. He came to the ball pit with me, and we played until they called pizza. Mike's dad yelled. We ate our pizza and went back to play. Mike said, "I'll be right back. I have to use the bathroom." So I waited. 20 minutes passed since he went to the bathroom. I told his dad, and his dad said he'd check. His dad came back looking shocked. He didn't speak. It was like he was paralyzed. He just stared straight at the bathroom door. I asked, "What did you see?" because he had gone into the bathroom to check. He wouldn't answer, so I decided to check for myself. Yes, I know, weird. I was young. I didn't know any better. I walked in and all I saw was Mike's body covered in blood. There was an animatronic with a knife in its hand. It was weird, but I couldn't make out which animatronic it was until it turned and stared at me with a big smile on its face. It was covered with blood like it had bitten Mike. It was Chuck E. I screamed. I told my mom we needed to go, and my life has never been the same. It still gives me chills thinking about it, and when my kids' birthdays come around, we are never going to Chuck E. Cheese, ever. The ghostly friend, a creepy encounter with David. When I was 7, my family moved into my uncle's house after he relocated. As we were settling in, I noticed a kid standing outside our front gate. He wore blue shorts, but I can't recall what else he was wearing. I walked over to him and said hi, and we started chatting about dinosaurs. He told me he was 6 years old and his name was David. While we were talking, my dad came over and asked, "Who the heck are you talking to?" I told him I was talking to David, but my dad said there was no one there. The next day, I saw David again. This time, he warned me, "Stay away from the train tracks." I asked him why, but he just walked away. A few years later, my dad reminded me of the time I talked to David. I was intrigued because I knew he couldn't have been an imaginary friend. I hated those. I believe David was a ghost, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can from my dad about it. I'll update you guys if I find out anything else.